Hey everyone, what's up? So, in the last video, we spoke about some of the automotive basics like track width, wheelbase, center of gravity. We understood how having a larger wheelbase leads to a more comfortable ride, but at the same time, the maneuverability goes down. Having a track width which is wider helps to obtain more stability. The same is the case in terms of center of gravity, and it is more preferred to be as close to the ground as possible. Uh, but again, there are limits to it. So that's about the recap of the previous video. In this video, I want to talk about suspensions. Okay, previously I told you we'll talk about suspensions, and this is that video. So we'll be covering up some of the basics, the classification of suspensions, dependent, independent, and mainly we'll talk about the independent suspension type because that's the one which is of more value to us. If you're talking about commercial vehicles or uh, on how to build a car with the comfortable ride. So yeah, that'll be the topics. Now let's begin. To begin talking about suspensions, let's first understand why do we need suspensions in the first place. The most general answer anyone would give is comfort. That's not the whole answer because there are many factors which account for comfort. Um but if we talk about suspension in particular, why we need it is uh, one is to maintain traction. Okay, to make sure that the tires are always rooted in the ground. uh, because think about it. uh, the wheel acts as a medium through which external forces are able to act on your car, and because of which you're able to propel forward, right? Now if the tire is not in contact with the ground, you're just spinning in one place. What are you doing with the car then? You can get yourself a windmill. Whenever you encounter a bumpy ride or any uh, uneven road, which is a very usual scenario here, at least in our country, your suspension links act as the flexible element, and they make the required adjustments to always make sure that the wheel never loses contact of the ground, and external force will act on your body, car body, and because of which your vehicle propels forward. Second reason is for better steering handling characteristics, because the suspension system works together with the steering system to ensure that when you're cornering or when you're doing any kind of turning maneuvers, there is a stable ride. There is no sudden threat of the vehicle rolling off or something like that. Then the third and most obvious reason, which you guys answered, comfort. Think about a car which has no suspension system in it. Okay, so you can imagine how terrible the ride experience would be. Very very terrible. Okay, now if you say you have 1,000 horsepower engine, I don't know from where you get it, but let's say you just had to have one, and you put it in your car and you run it. If the car has no suspension, then when you go on an uneven road, half the time you'll be in the air, suspended, right? So most of the time you're just wasting of energy in just spinning the wheels in one place. Okay, you're not even putting the effort to move the vehicle forward. You're staying in one place, and the tires are rotating. Again, the whole point of having the car is lost. So that's when you have the proper suspension units, right? They will make sure that uh, the traction is always there, and because of the traction your car is always able to move forward. So that proves why having a better engine isn't always the best choice. Sometimes you can also work on other parts and still make your ride even more better. Okay, now we spoke about the need for suspensions. Now let's talk about the different types. So in suspensions, you have two main classifications. One is dependent suspension, another one is independent suspension. Dependent suspension are the most simplest, most the most laziest suspension design ever made. So think about this: the left and right wheels are mounted on a same solid axle, and for some reason, okay, maybe because the earth was not flat or because of some stupidly weird reason, the tire had to go up. Okay, I mean, not stupid reason, but practical reason. When the road is uneven and the wheel moves in it, uh, because of its vertical motion, the other tire on the same axle gets affected, and you will see a tilt or a vertical translation or a combination of any of these two motions. This type of design for suspension is mostly seen in trucks. Over there, a design which is more suitable for carrying more loads, and where comfort is not really an option. Uh, you can go with much more simpler designs, and this dependent suspension does at least does the required job. Then we come to independent suspension. This is a type of suspension which is uh, most commonly seen in all your commercial vehicles, in formula vehicles. Uh, so, what happens in independent suspension is that each of the wheels get their own suspension links, get their own control arms, and they are connected directly with the main frame or the chassis. There is no like intermediate link or any separate link which connects the two wheels. Because of this, what happens is that when one wheel, uh, when it undergoes any sort of disturbances, the rest of the wheels remain unaffected. Okay, so let's say for some stupid reason one wheel loses contact from the ground, the remaining three wheels are still rooted on the ground. So at any given point you're still rooted on the ground and you're still getting traction, and that's how you'll be able to move. You'll be able to move forward. About how it is on how the experience is on either side on the tires. Well, think of it like this: uh, if one of the wheel is going down in the pit, okay, or going in some uneven surface, the person sitting on that wheel will feel jerk in the upward direction, and meanwhile, the person who is sitting on the other wheel, he'll feel nothing. He'll be like he's sitting on a normal, peaceful morning, sipping his cup of coffee. Very aram, very smooth ride. And since there's no direct link connecting the left and right wheels, there is there is no relative motion happening between the two wheels, and thus you're able to achieve a robust suspension system. And since we are on the topic of independent suspensions, let's talk about the two components involved here. The one is the spring and one is the damper, or also called as shock absorber. So the spring does the good part of converting the inbound kinetic energy from the tire's vertical acceleration into potential energy. So this flexible element allows the car's chassis or the mainframe to continue its state of motion even when there is some obstruction which is encountered by the tire. But you got to realize that spring is not the only element which you can use for a suspension, because although it's good at absorbing the energy, it is not very good at dissipating them. And because of which, if the impending obstruction acts for a sufficiently long duration of time, then the stored energy in that spring is gonna further act on the mainframe. Okay, so initially the vertical acceleration from the tire is taken off by the spring, it compresses. Then, if the obstruction still continues to act for a sufficiently long time, then this compressed state of spring, the potential energy in it has no place to go except for the mainframe. So the mainframe will feel the jerk. Now, of course, you don't want that happening, right? You don't want to feel sudden jerks in the car. That is undesirable, and that's where your uh, dampener or shock absorber comes into play. So, in a shock absorber, you have hydraulic fluid, a twin tube design, and a piston. Okay, so this whole unit, the dampener or shock absorber unit, it is mounted between the axle and the car's mainframe. Okay, so when we have a obstruction now, okay, and when we have this combination of the spring and dampener, the spring does a good job of compressing, storing the impending kinetic energy into potential energy. From there, the dampener will also undergo compression because of the spring undergoing compression. They are linked parts, right? So it will also undergo compression over there, and the piston inside would have perforations. Okay, so the fluid will pass through these perforations at very high pressures, but the upside of having the fluid pass at high pressure is that the total vertical motion the piston undergoes is slow. And since the piston itself is undergoing a slower vertical motion, the rest of the parts attached to it, that is the mainframe, they'll also go a lower at a lower speed, and thus the jerk is less experienced. So that is why this combination of the dampener and a spring is used together. Now, this combination of a spring and damper is given another is taken up in another way. That's called struts. Okay, and the most popular type of suspension design, the most commercially used suspension design, is called MacPherson Strut. Okay, so it featured this combination of the spring and dampener, which apart from doing the suspension activities, also give some sort of support to the mainframe. So the whole load of the mainframe, along with all the other components, the passenger weight, and whatnot, everything is handled. Everything is loaded on this one strut, or this your whole system of struts, and even after that, the suspension activities can be carried out as normal. MacPherson strut is simple, just like I explained right now. You have the wheel hub. There's one mounting point on it, and another mounting point on the car's mainframe. And between these 2 points, your strut is placed. Since it's an independent suspension, all the wheels get their own independent struts, and this was the one which is most commercially used. Okay, uh, although although now the other type of independent suspension is gaining more popularity, that is double wishbone. But uh, if you look at the record for suspension systems, McPherson strut have always been there in terms of the most uh, easily manufacturable, yeah, and most easiest to implement type of suspension system, that is McPherson strut. Then came along double wishbone. So in the McPherson strut, you had one control arm and one strut. Okay. In a double wishbone, you have two A arms. Okay. Two A arms. They took quite a lot of space, as you can guess it out, and then a strut assembly. Okay. I just checked out the internet right now and came to know that when your wheel is going vertical motion, when it has double wishbone suspension, there is negative camber. Camber is a whole different topic. I'll explain it in another video. It is the angle the wheel makes when you look at the car from the front. Okay, so if I'm looking at the car like this, straightforward, the angle which it makes with respect to the vertical, that is the camber. So when you have a double wishbone suspension geometry, the wheels will have a negative camber, and this is more favorable when you're in a car which is meant for cornering. So during cornering, what happens is that this negative camber makes the adjustment so that the wheel will become vertical during the corner, and because of it getting vertical, the tires contact patch on the ground will be maximized. And since the tire contact patch is maximized, you're getting more traction. Since you're getting more traction, you're having more stability even at higher speeds, and that's where double wishbone geometry shines. So again, McPherson strut and double wishbone geometry each have their own pros and cons. Depends on what applications you use. The I know that's the most obvious answer I can give, but that's how it is. So I think I've covered major concepts over here. Talked about the types of suspensions, the elements of suspension, and pretty much the basics. Okay, at least to give you that beginner mindset for tackling the suspension subject. But yeah, I think we'll stop at this for this video. If you guys have any more suggestions on what topic I have to cover next one, What I'm thinking is I'll cover the three basic. Uh, what I'm thinking I'll cover the three basic angles when it comes to suspension, like the camber, caster, kingpin angle, or something along those lines. But I've not decided it. It'll be good if you guys can give me some inputs, and then we can continue from there. So yeah, until the next video, we'll see you again. Bye. See ya.